The crowd chanted in perfect rhythm, an unholy chorus of claws, snarls, and guttural cheers. In the Colosseum of Vorex Prime, the blood arena trembled with anticipation. Above, the triple suns of the system cast shadows like broken teeth across the red sand. Today's prey was special. Today, they would hunt a human. In her private box, overlooking the arena, Commander Visa watched the procession with bored amusement. 7 feet tall, armored in bone plate and ceremonial gold, she was every bit the Xeranthi ideal. Predator, noble, unchallenged. Her black and silver crest flared in the warm air as she sipped from a chilled goblet of blood fruit. "The Terran is smaller than I expected," she muttered. The human was marched into the center of the arena by 2 guards, massive reptilian beasts with plasma shackles and thick chains. The human didn't resist. He walked with head up, back straight, but there was no arrogance in his stride. Just stillness. Composure. Too much composure. His name, according to the data chip, was Reyes. No first name, no rank. Captured in a border skirmish with the Urks Coalition, sold through Force Systems, and delivered here by slavers who had doubled their price for the Death World specimen. Visa descended from her box with a flourish, the arena roaring as she strode into the sand. Her weapon, a hooked glaive named Bloodtongue, was handed to her with reverence. "You know what happens next, human," she purred, her voice echoing through the arena's amplification glyphs. "You run. I hunt. The game ends when your heart stops beating." Reyes looked at her calmly. Sweat glistened on his brow, but he didn't shake, didn't flinch. 2 minutes, Visa offered. A mercy no Xeranthi would extend to prey. "Run now. Make it exciting." The crowd howled, demanding the bloodsport begin. Drums boomed. Flames erupted from the perimeter. All eyes were on the human. Would he sprint? Would he stumble? He didn't move. "Why don't you run, human?" Visa asked, stepping closer. Reyes looked up at her, eyes like smoldering coals under a cold sky. "Why would I run?" he said softly. "You locked yourself in here with me." The words were quiet, but the arena heard them. The crowd fell silent. Visa blinked. Her heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the words alone. It was how he said them, like a man stating fact. Not bravado, not bluff. A scream erupted from one of the handlers. One of Reyes' shackles lay on the sand, broken, not open, broken. Snapped metal. Before Visa could react, Reyes moved. He didn't run. He launched. The closest guard fell with a gurgling sound, his throat crushed before he could raise his weapon. Reyes twisted, ripped the stun baton from the second's grip, and drove it into the alien's eye socket in one smooth, brutal motion. Blood sprayed across the arena's sand. The audience roared, but it wasn't cheers. It was shock, confusion, fear. Visa raised her weapon instinctively. Reyes didn't attack. He stood over the 2 corpses calm, his chest rising with slow, deliberate breaths. Blood dripped from his hands. He stared up at her, not as a man hunted, but as something older, something colder. She stepped back. It wasn't possible. It wasn't supposed to go like this. Visa activated her communicator. "Send in the interceptors. Now." Reyes smiled. "They won't reach me in time." That smile, it chilled her blood. In the heart of the most secure arena in the Xeranthi Dominion, Commander Visa, the warden of the blood hunt, felt something alien slither into her gut. For the first time in her life, she felt prey. Commander Visa retreated 3 steps without realizing it. Her instinct screamed, ancient and buried beneath centuries of dominance. Not since her blood trials had she tasted fear, and even then, it had been a distant thing. A learning tool. Now it felt real. The human, Reyes, advanced slowly, not recklessly, not like prey that had gotten lucky. He moved like something designed to kill. Every step was calculated quiet. He was watching her the way she had watched 1,000 victims before. Evaluating, anticipating. The arena's command glyph flickered red. Interceptors were inbound, hover drones armed with cutting lasers and nerve disruptors. She tapped her comm again. "Where are they?" she snapped. A static-laced reply crackled in. "Already deployed, Warden. ETA 15 seconds. Reyes tilted his head slightly, listening. He heard them too. Then he ran. but not away. He moved toward the eastern pylon, a tall, spine support structure with embedded power lines and hidden maintenance ports. He scaled it with terrifying ease, vanishing behind a tangle of alloy and cables. The drones arrived seconds later, slicing through the arena air with pinpoint aggression. Visa shouted orders, trying to track him on their vision systems. The broadcast feeds flickered, then died. Darkness swept over the arena. Not physical darkness, informational. The cameras, drones, and comms went silent. Reyes had cut the grid. How does a primitive Death Worlder know how to disrupt our networks? Hissed one of Visa's aides through her earpiece. She didn't answer. She was already moving. She had to get out. She wasn't just a warrior. She was nobility. Her death here would echo through a dozen houses, destabilize alliances. She was too valuable to die in the sand. But a deeper part of her, the core of the hunter, burned with another realization. She wasn't valuable. She was marked. She had spoken to him, looked into his eyes. She was the one he'd chosen. Above her, inside the walls of the pylon, Reyes moved like liquid metal. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a relic from a forgotten war Earth had fought and buried in silence. Project Revenant, the Terran initiative that had created Apex combatants, designed not just to kill, but to terrorize the enemy. Where most species broke bones, humans adapted. Where most armies used armor, Reyes had learned to use everything around him. Wires, pipes, fear. He didn't have a weapon yet, but that would change soon. Crawling through the power conduits, he found a control panel, standard Xeranthi tech. He had seen similar in a war zone on Nuvon 3. He jammed a blade of salvaged armor into the override slot and twisted. The system surged. Lights flickered arena-wide. He reactivated only the internal feeds. Tama talked to her. Visa froze as her personal communicator sparked to life. No command input, just audio. Still think I should run? His voice was quiet, but it echoed like thunder in her skull. You talk big, she said aloud, scanning the stands. But you're just a Terran stray. You bleed like any animal. No, Reyes said through the speaker. I don't just bleed. I remember. You Xeranthi wiped out the Keldari on Theta 9. Burned them alive. That was your idea of discipline. Visa's blood ran cold. That event hadn't been public. It was sealed, military intelligence, classified for centuries. You don't know what you were. I was there. Reyes cut her off. You watched from orbit while my unit held the southern pass. We bought the Keldari time to evacuate. You still dropped plasma. He wasn't just here for escape. He was here for judgment. In the northern corridor, the interceptors began exploding, one by one, each with surgical precision. Something was moving through the walls, something that knew the layout better than their engineers. One of Visa's guards turned to her. Warden, we must evacuate. No, she said, baring her fangs. We kill him here. This ends now. But even as she said it, a screen above the arena flickered on. Reyes' face filled the projection, blood-streaked, lit by the cold blue of Xeranthi tech. This isn't a game anymore, he said, addressing the watching billions. To the enslaved, the hunted, the broken, watch closely. You're not alone. And then he was gone from the screen. Back in the shadows. Back on the hunt. The outer districts of Vorex Prime were no longer cheering. What had begun as a routine execution spectacle had turned into something else. Something unscripted, uncontrolled, unthinkable. Broadcasts across half the Dominion had picked up Reyes' message before the signal was jammed. Even now, illegal data threads replayed his chilling words on loop. This isn't a game anymore. You're not alone. In the mines beneath the arena, where enslaved species dug night and day for the right crystals, the message sparked fire in long-dead eyes. One Selnari worker whispered it as he struck stone. An imprisoned Vardari priestess etched the words into her cell wall with a claw. The humans were supposed to be prey, supposed to break, supposed to run, but this one didn't. Commander Visa stalked through the arena's underground halls, her pulse racing, claws clenched tight around her glaive. Two more guards followed close, both visibly nervous. She could smell it on them. He hadn't shown himself in 10 minutes. No attacks, no taunts, No movement on thermal scans. He's hiding, one guard offered, trying to sound confident. Regrouping. Even apex predators have limits. Visa didn't answer. She knew better. Reyes wasn't hiding. He was watching. She halted at a junction where blood stained the walls. One of the interceptor crews had tried to flank him. The two Xeranthi warriors lay sprawled in unnatural angles. Necks snapped, armor peeled open. Their weapons were gone. The third body was missing entirely. "Why us?" the second guard whispered. "Why come here?" Visa stared at the red smear that led into the maintenance shaft. Then up at the arena floor schematics flashing on her wrist display. "Because this is where they made the mistake," she said. "They brought him to us, into our seat of power, and locked the doors." She remembered Reyes' voice, that awful stillness in his tone. "Why would I run? You locked yourself in here with me." In the system's control room, above the arena, Reyes moved with precision. He had taken the remaining tech alive, barely. One Xeranthi engineer now sat unconscious, bound with his own power cables. Reyes moved his fingers across the holographic controls, rerouting power, disabling surveillance, mapping heat signatures. The Dominion always built their arenas the same way. They were proud of their design, arrogant in their repetition. He knew this place better than they did now. He pulled up a live feed of the cells below, the holding pens for lesser species awaiting their turn in the arena. The faces of the oppressed stared at the camera. Broken, silent, forgotten. He opened the cages. In cell block 9, the magnetic locks hissed open. The stunned prisoners, Selnari, Drakthi, even a wounded Keldari child, hesitated. Then the voice came again. "Reyes, over the system broadcast. You're free. Leave or stay and fight. But you're not animals anymore." A one-armed Drakthi war shaman growled in approval and lifted a rusted pipe. A Vardari priestess picked up a fallen guard shock rod. By the time the arena lights flickered again, the revolt had begun. From tunnels and vents and shadowed halls, the oppressed rose in chaos. The guards were overwhelmed. Visa received the alert as the first wall breached behind her. Multiple escapes. Species revolt in progress. Guard units falling back. "We've lost control of." The transmission cut off in a scream. She turned to her last two guards. "Stay with me. Form up." But she could feel it. The whole complex was turning on her. Every hallway held threats. Every vent echoed with movement. This wasn't one human anymore. This was contagion. She pushed toward the high gate exit, the only unsealed route off the arena floor. Above her, emergency sirens wailed. Then the walls exploded. Reyes stepped out of the smoke, wielding a plasma carbine looted from a dead guard. His eyes locked on hers. Calm, cold. Visa roared and lunged. Their blades met once, then twice. Sparks flew. Reyes moved with ruthless economy. Every strike a message. "I am not here to survive. I am here to end you." Visa faltered. His strength was unreal. His strikes didn't stop. She backed away, slashing wildly, then tripped over corpse. He stood over her, weapon raised. She closed her eyes, but nothing came. When she opened them, he was walking away. "Why?" she gasped. Reyes paused at the edge of the gate, glancing back. "Because you'll carry the story further than I ever could." Then he was gone. Smoke curled from the shattered gates of the arena as the last plasma fires sputtered out. The screams had faded. The blood was drying. Vorex Prime, the jewel of the Xeranthi blood circuit, was quiet. And Reyes was gone. No one saw how he escaped. No shuttles recorded leaving the atmosphere. No warp gates flared to life. But his absence was felt everywhere, like a silence left by a scream. Visa stood alone in the ruins of the control tower, helmet off, armor cracked, gaze distant. She hadn't spoken in hours. Not since the last message played through the emergency broadcast system. You had all the strength, all the numbers, all the weapons, and still, you feared a man with nothing but a reason. Now the Dominion burned with rumors and fear. In the shadowed spires of the Xeranthi High Council, a crisis meeting raged. They'll start to think they're equal, one admiral snarled, tail lashing behind his throne. They already do, Visa said, stepping into the chamber. The council turned. She looked nothing like the untouchable warden who had once paraded humans in chains. Her ceremonial crest was torn, her voice unadorned, but it carried weight. You should have killed the broadcast before it reached the outer sectors, another noble hissed. You think this is about one message? Visa replied. This was never about him. It's about what he showed them. Then tell us, growled the High Chancellor. What did he show them? Visa's eyes narrowed. That we're not hunters. We're farmers who've been raising wolves and calling them sheep. Across the galaxy, sparks of rebellion ignited. In the mining belts of the Malkari sector, slave overseers were found strangled with their own chains. On the war-racked moon of Brynith, a band of escaped humans and Drakthi warriors stormed a broadcast station, scrawling Unhunted across its spire in burning plasma script. No matter where it started, the whispers were the same. There was one who didn't run, and he's still out there. In a far-off system, a Xeranthi slaver barge drifted cold and silent. Its emergency beacon blinked. A recovery team arrived 2 hours later and found every crew member dead. No signs of external breach. No signs of internal fire. But on the walls, scrawled in dry blood, 3 words. You should have run. Weeks passed. The Dominion tried to spin it. Declared Reyes a rogue aberration. A malfunction. A relic of some primitive chaos from Earth's forgotten wars. But the words never left the people. And neither did the fear. The slaves still muttered his name. Young warriors practiced with stolen human tactics. In the black markets, Reyes became a symbol etched on daggers and flags, and are made from 2 jagged lines crossing like broken chains. Reyes hadn't just escaped. He had become story, and stories are harder to kill than soldiers. Back on Vorex Prime, beneath the collapsed arena, the cleanup teams found something strange in the dust, a metal shard from a helmet jammed into the wall. Etched into it were coordinates. To Earth. Visa stood at the edge of a cliff days later, watching stars rise over the ruins. She could no longer feel the same pride in her blood. Her people had believed themselves apex predators. Now, she wasn't sure what they were anymore. She remembered what he said, the moment that shattered everything. Why would I run? You locked yourself in here with me. At the time, she thought it was madness. Now she knew better. It wasn't madness. It was humanity. Not the fragile, wide-eyed prey they paraded in cages, but the one buried deep inside. The species that had survived its own planet, its own wars, its own extinction, and turned every scar into a weapon. In a hidden asteroid belt, far from any trade lanes, Reyes sat in the cockpit of a salvaged Corvette. He was alone. No symbols, no armies. Just quiet. The screen before him flickered with news, chaos, fear, revolt. He said nothing, just loaded another magazine into his sidearm, and waited, because the hunt wasn't over, and they still hadn't run.